Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patty Hegwood, and I'm really pleased to see you all here this afternoon. This is our May Angels Rest Blessing. So let's begin. One of the areas I'd like to focus on this evening is caregiving. And oftentimes, our caregiving with our animals, first of all, we care for them daily, right? But then there comes that time where caregiving becomes a bit more intense and intensified as they age. And we get to a place where we're now giving fluids, we're running them back and forth to the vet, we're having to physically pick them up and carry them in and out of the car. And there's something very interesting that happens there. If they weren't already a part of our DNA, they now become an inextricable part of our very being. We share this with them, these moments, this time. You wait for a sign, like we all have, a nod, a knowing look, something that says it's time. Oh, there's times when we just would never want that look, but then again, we know it's coming. And we don't want to prolong life for life's sake, but we also don't want to be the one to call it. And then that day comes, and it's a really, really horrible, tough day. That's the day when we have to say bye for now. And what happens there is we hold in our hearts all that grace, right? We hold them close to us and we let them go because we know we have the rest of our lives to cry. We have the rest of our lives to mourn. We let them know that they've been great. They have done everything they possibly could to make life just as good as it could be. So then what's next? We sleep. We're mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. We feel a sense of, sometimes guiltily, a little sense of relief that it's over. But we also know that we're just sad, right? We're happy, what is it Dr. Seuss says? Smile because it happened, right? So there's also a feeling of reward. And it's that feeling of reward for having done a job really well. You've done all the things. You did the bucket list. You did the last minute cheeseburger. You know, you took that ride. You did that last walk. And now what it's time for, it's time to be gentle to ourselves. It's time to allow ourselves that same courtesy of care and forgiveness, and kindness. And when I think about this care that I know everyone here has delivered in one way or another, I think about the folks at home who also resonate with this. And I also think about our caregivers here at the sanctuary, because they live in a continual state of letting go. Many times they stay up late at night or they go home worried, only come back early in the morning to make sure everything's okay. They go in long and deep on some animals who are truly suffering, and we're trying to get them to rally and help them to live. And you know what? Many times they do, and they're released to adoption happily. But there are all of those times where sadly they're released to the heavens. But we know we gave it our best shot. And that's something that we all have to reconcile for ourselves. And the letting go is never easy. No matter where they go, letting go is letting go. But also letting go opens up for you a space to let more in. Let in more life, let in more love. And I want to remind everyone to please reach out to the people who care for you, especially when you're going through those times, and let them know what you're doing and what you're going through. Sometimes all you have to tell somebody is, I just need an ear. I don't need you to do anything else. I just need an ear. Because those people can and they will stand by you. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and I want to pass over to Josh. He's our Angels Rest manager.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Josh. I'm the manager here at Angels Rest. And at this point of the program, I'll read through and talk about some of the animals that had passed on here at the sanctuary for this month. In Dogtown, we lost Buddha. In Cat World, we lost Tutti Frutti, aka Porcupine, Nugget, Zillow, and Shmooly. In Piggy Paradise, we lost Tobias. Now, these were the tributes of the friends and founders and attendees here that were also sent in. D2, Lady Bailey, Mason Hull, Kilo and Sam Brown, Turk Broadhead, Kiwi and Blackjack, Riley, Callie, Albert, Magic, Sophie, Jack, Lamont and Henry, Logan, Blackjack, Riley, Jake, Daisy, and Smokey. And these are some more tributes that were sent in from members of Best Friends. Trinity, Rocky Fleet, Loretta Lynn Seagraves, Moonshine Hoover, Kennedy, Lucy, Daisy and Sumner, Fred, Cody, Clark, Rorty, Hop, Kasaya, Fergus, Daisy Dog, Harley, Cowboy, Napoleon, Arthur Bogart, Mitzi and Brody, Blanche, Cheyenne, Shavas, Olivia, and Willow. And at this point, I'd like to pass this on to Tyler.
Hi everybody, my name's Tyler. I'm one of the caretakers here. It's good to see everybody out here. It's been a while since I've been to a blessing myself, so it's a big difference from the last time I was here. So it's really good to see you. Right now, I'd like to share a story from a best friend supporter about a cat named Charlie. Charlie was a former street cat. He was abandoned at an early age and developed a strong distrust of humans. He hung out with another local street cat, commonly known as Star. Star was truly feral in every sense of the word, but would come through for food and brought Charlie with her. We never expected the entire world to change with Charlie, but it did. We fed him, respected his boundaries, and one day he flopped on the ground and let me pet his head. I felt like this was the best thing ever, but I didn't realize how much better things would get. One day, I had my hands full of groceries, and I didn't latch the screen door. I dropped the groceries in the kitchen, and the next thing I know, Charlie is in my house, on the recliner, and getting ready to take a nap. He gave me this look like, I am home, and nothing was the same since. His biggest gift, his ability to know when someone needed love. He came into my life when my dad was dealing with some major health issues. He always seemed to know when I was stressed, and would jump on my desk or my lap and curl up purring. All that being said, this cat was silly as could be. He could also play like a kitten with his little 99-cent store elephant toy at totally random times to make you laugh.
Hello, and it is good to see everybody here. My name is Tom. I'm a caregiver in Dogtown. I had no idea that Patty was going to say what she said at the top of this blessing, but she hit the nail right on the head, and her words were very appropriate. That is what it's like to be a caregiver. I'd like to talk a little about Buddha. He's the only dog that we lost in Dogtown. this past month. And to know Buddha, you can picture, okay, Buddha is listed in our database as a pit mix, which is kind of a generic conglomeration of things that have short hair and square heads and lots of muscles. But Buddha was also tall and lanky, so my guess would be that he probably had some Great Dane in him or something a little bigger, a little taller. Buddha came to the sanctuary several years ago from our Los Angeles facility. And to hear it then, when Buddha arrived here, he was quite spunky, which I believe was his lifestyle in Los Angeles too. That's a hard place to live for a dog. But I didn't know Buddha when he first arrived, but I would hear on the radio things like, I had Buddha out for a walk, just make sure your volunteers are clear. So Buddha made it clear pretty much right from the get-go that he preferred not to live with other dogs. And so Buddha became what we call an office dog. And these are dogs that live by themselves in one of the various offices in Dogtown. And Buddha got to live in the trainer's office with the training staff. There were 2 or 3 people that shared an office along with Buddha. And so I would hear things on the radio like, don't go in the trainer's office unless you know Buddha. So he had this reputation that I could just hear over the radio, but I had never met him. And finally, about 1.5 years ago, I was moved in Dogtown to an area where Buddha lived. I had a little trepidation because of this reputation, but it quickly became clear that all of that was bunk. Buddha was not hard to meet. He was a little, let's call it jumpy mouthy. When you met him, sometimes he would glom onto your leg and hump for a few seconds. Sometimes he would grab your clothing. Sometimes he would bury his head in your treat pouch and try to rip things off of your person. But he really wasn't that hard to meet. And as time went on and I was Buddha's caregiver for a few months, our relationship got better, our relationship got stronger. Buddha was an older dog when I met him, and he had already been diagnosed with arthritis and spondylosis, and you guys know what those things are. These are diseases of the aging. Humans can get these, dogs can get these. And so Buddha had some trouble with his back legs. They didn't work as well as they did when he was a younger dog. And so we gave him a twin-size mattress to lie on and to sleep on in his run during the day, as opposed to the normal run setup would be a Karunda bed with some blankets, maybe a cushion bed if the dog could have that and not tear it apart. But Buddha got a twin-size mattress, and we changed his sheets a couple times a week for him. He was treated like royalty. And I can remember during my lunch hour, I prefer to spend time with the dogs during my lunch hour instead of going somewhere to eat or running into town to do things. So I would often go into Buddha's run and just lie down on the twin-size mattress. And sometimes he would join me and sometimes he would not join me. And he would wander around outside or lay in the sun if it was a nice day, like it has been recently. And so I found myself having to set my alarm for 1 o'clock because I would fall asleep on Buddha's mattress, and before I knew it, it was time to go back to work at 1 o'clock. So I ended up having to set my alarm on a regular basis. Back in January, we started to notice some things about Buddha that were a little bit off, a little bit different. And as a caregiver, this is really a prime responsibility of yours to be aware of your dog's condition and be able to tell when their behavior changes or be able to tell when something is a little bit different with them. And so we had some blood work run. Buddha was not eating his meals. He didn't really walk with any degree of gusto that he used to. And I say that for a 13-year-old dog. So he was really just lethargic and inappetence had crept up on him. And so blood work showed that he had developed anemia. And anemia, if you don't know what that is, it's a shortage of iron and red blood cells in the blood. And so after a couple of vet visits, we didn't think we had any solutions. And we were actually ready to cross Buddha back in the January timeframe. But then one of the doctors hit on a potential solution, and the staff and my coworkers and I talked amongst ourselves, and we said, why not? Let's try. Let's see if it'll help. And so we did. And he started receiving injections of iron directly into his body, and he was taking iron supplements, and he was taking these other things to try to suppress what might have been. It was diagnosed as a possible GI bleed, a slow GI bleed inside of him. And so we tried all of these things, and Buddha got a little better. And as time went on, he got a little bit more better. And we would draw blood from him every week, which he hated. But we needed to do it to check his red blood cell count and to check the iron levels in his chemistry. And before long, he was really back up towards the normal range of iron in his blood. And so he started to appear more like the Buddha that we knew. And then all of a sudden, one day, he decided that he wasn't going to eat anymore, and he had developed some other GI issues, which I won't describe. They're fairly graphic. And then one morning, my coworker came in to find that he had deceased during the evening. So we didn't make the choice for Buddha. We almost made the choice in January, but we decided to give it a chance and see if we could help him. And then he decided one night that it was time. And so, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about that. Yes, I would have liked to have been with him at the end and to show him how much he was loved, but this was a peaceful way for him to go too. And so, I don't know, I try to balance those things in my head. I will say that I knew Buddha for the last year and a half of his life. I didn't know him in his younger, spunkier, bite your fingers, grab your clothing time of his life. But I did know him as an older, dignified senior dog. I can say that because of the medical support we received, Buddha probably lived an extra 4 or 5 months, and we're really, really grateful for that. He had a lot of friends and fans in Dogtown. A lot of caregivers knew Buddha. A lot of our float team knew Buddha. A lot of people adored Buddha. And so just in closing and wrapping this up, I would just like to honor Buddha's memory with those thoughts that I just shared with you. It was a real pleasure and a real honor and a privilege to be Buddha's caregiver. I feel lucky that I was one of the ones that did get to be his caregiver and could see him on an everyday basis. And for that, I'll be forever grateful. I know Buddha is not suffering anymore right now. I know that he will shortly be in a much better place. And I think just to close it, I would just say, thank you, Buddha. Thanks for allowing me to be in your life, and thanks for allowing all of your other fans and friends to be in your life.
Hi everyone, my name is Jess and I work in Dogtown also. I'd like to talk about a dog. I'm going to read something that one of our dear local volunteers wrote about a dog that recently came into our lives. We named her Jenny. We don't know if that was really her name or not, but I'll read this first and talk a little more later. This is written by Denise Furman. I always think of Dave and Josh when I come up here early in the morning, and all the animals and all the people connections of Angel's Overlook and Angel's Rest. We're here for Jenny's placing. Most of you by now know her story, at least the last few days of her story on this earth. I saw Jenny wandering on Grand Vermilion Avenue, terrifyingly close to Route 89. She had no collar, but an enormous amount of cactus needles and other debris in her coat. My husband drove her to our vet to confirm that she had no microchip. We were allowed to keep her in our guest bedroom that night and brought her to Best Friends the next morning. She was given the best care from so many Best Friends staff. Jenny, however, had multiple health issues, and she was crossed over the Rainbow Bridge on Saturday night. 2 double rainbows have been showing up in the last few days where Jenny was picked up. We're so incredibly sad and sorrowed by the loss of this beautiful, sweet angel, and mostly for all she had suffered before her crossing. But despite our sadness and our heartbreak over this experience, we also feel a profound sense of gratitude. Thank you to everyone who allowed us to let Jenny spend the night in our guest bedroom and to let us take her the next morning to Best Friends to spend the rest of her stray hold stay there. Jenny ignored the blankets on the floor and curled up on my clothing instead. Thank you for all the veterinary staff who gave her the best care that they could. Thank you for, once the decision was made to cross her, notifying us and waiting for us so we could be there to say goodbye. Thank you to all the Best Friends caregivers for everything that every one of you did to help comfort Jenny and for everything you do for animals every day. You have long amazed and inspired Paul and myself. You make us want to do more every day for animals, and we promise to do that. Thank you to everyone at Best Friends who has been a friend, a sounding board, a listener, and in times like this, a shoulder to cry on. So that was from Denise, who found Jenny. Jenny was a little, no more than 20-pound schnauzer. We tried really hard to find her family or her person, to no avail, and she had a lot going on in her little body. And while we really tried hard, we couldn't save her. Our clinic tried really hard to get her the care that she needed, but unfortunately, we just couldn't help her. Just a side note, since she was on a stray hold, she was not officially yet a Dogtown dog, but I just want to say we did this in cooperation with our local police department and our police chief, who is amazingly supportive of Best Friends. And because of his permission, we were able to get her care, and she did not have to sit without care for days. So his compassion is always much appreciated, because he always wants to help us do what's right for animals in our county and in our town. I also just want to take a minute. The names of several puppies haven't been shared with Angels Rest staff yet. We've been losing puppies at a really high rate recently due to illness, despite the caregivers' best efforts and despite our medical staff's best efforts. All those puppies will be placed at Angels Overlook in the next couple of weeks or so. But I just wanted to take a minute to honor those puppies. A lot of times when people think of puppies, they think of fun, playful, healthy puppies. And a lot of times they're our most fragile residents here in Dogtown. They're so fragile and small. And the ones that we lost were born on April 28th and May 1st from 2 separate litters. And they were just so young and fragile, and everything we could do just wasn't enough. So I want to thank the caregivers and our medical team for doing all that they could do for them. It's really been a tough time to be a staff member in puppies right now. We have 2 puppies remaining, and they're doing really well right now. So those 2 puppies are doing well, and their moms are doing well. So we're going to hope for the best and keep giving them the great care, but sometimes it's just too much for their little bodies. Lastly, I just want to talk about my dog. Her name was Trixie, and she's a Dogtown alum. So if you volunteered at the clubhouse in 2017 or 18, you might have met her. She was a little Chihuahua, afraid of her own shadow, from a puppy mill in Missouri. Came to us by way of a rescue in Missouri that helped often with puppy mills and puppy mill rescues. So I always say she was a puppy mill survivor. She was about 13 when she passed away, and I had her in my home for about 5.5 years. She loved dogs very much. She loved all creatures. I always said she wouldn't hurt a fly, and I mean it. Like, she loved every creature. She was afraid of people, but she grew and grew over the course of time in my home, and had several milestones, like taking a treat from my hand, walking on a leash, letting me pick her up, riding in a stroller, because that was kind of safer than walking, in her opinion. Playing in front of me, playing fetch with me, even though she wouldn't bring it back. She liked to chase the toys. She also had a little stash. It's a little embarrassing for her, but I'll still share. She had 2 stashes. She hoarded poop on an outside bed. That's a common puppy mill trait. And she hoarded stuffy toys in the sofa cushions. And I'm always really thankful that she knew the difference, because I have a lot of patience, but I don't want to find poop in the couch cushions. So those were some of the things she liked to do. And actually, towards the end of her life, she didn't hoard poop anymore, which was actually pretty cool. But she loved to hoard stuffy toys, and she'd go chase them if I threw them for her. She was no longer afraid when they would go through the air. She made a lot of progress. I could talk about her for a really long time, but I won't. Anyway, I'm just thankful that she let me into her life, and that about 6 months ago, maybe more like 9, probably last summer, I was able to start petting her by her choice. So that was a pretty great thing. And one of my last memories of her was laying on the couch with her at my feet, which was a thing she had started to recently do. And all my animals were on the couch with me, which like never happens. So that was pretty cool, that she felt at home, with us, her family. So just wanted to honor Trixie, formerly known as Heather in Dogtown. Thanks.
I was kind of joking, but not today on the tour, whoever's on my tour, that I said, the people who come here to work, they don't come here just because it's a job, because nobody comes out in the middle of nowhere just for a job. The dedicated people who come here because they're passionate about saving lives and about what our mission stands for. And I came up with something a while back, and I keep working on it, but basically it's in trying we succeed. We may not always get the outcome that is preferred, but it's actually the act of caring and trying that is the success. Because ultimately, we're all going to go to our great reward. I think the chimes agree. But it's the trying, it's the care. There's many animals that come across our threshold who didn't have a chance at somebody caring whether they lived or died. And that's really something super special. So in close, every month I like to pick out a poem that goes pretty much with what we were thinking about. And, this one was definitely, this month was geared towards the caregiver and all of us and how much we give to those around us that we love. And to think about that love that we need to make a bit circular for ourselves as well. And this is a poem called The Most Important Thing by Julia Fehrenbacher. I am making a home inside myself, a shelter of kindness where everything is forgiven, everything allowed, a quiet patch of sunlight to stretch out without hurry, where all that has been banished and buried is welcomed, spoken, listened to, released. A fiercely friendly place I can claim as my very own. I am throwing arms open to the whole of myself, especially the fearful, fault-finding, falling apart, unfinished parts, knowing every seed and weed and every drop of rain has made the soil richer. I will light a candle, pour a hot cup of tea, gather around the warmth of my own blazing fire. I will howl if I want to, knowing this flame can burn through any perceived problem, any prescribed perfectionism, any lying limitation, every heavy thing. I am making a home inside myself where grace blooms in grand and glorious abundance, a shelter of kindness that grows all the truest things. I whisper hallelujah to the friendly sky. Watch now how I burst into blossom. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and please feel free to walk around the grounds and enjoy more of the chimes. And we are so blessed and happy to have you here with us today and always.